Well, Starbucks is hiking wages for employees to counter growing momentum to unionize at their stores. The coffee giant announcing it is investing $200 million in its stores and employees. But interim CEO Howard Schultz saying those investments won't apply to stores that vote to organize. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Brooke DiPalma with me here at the desk. So let's talk about the $200 million investment first. How does that break down?
Absolutely, Kiko. So to note that $200 million investment is part of a $1 billion investment that will happen this fiscal year. But just to begin here, raising wages is really the main play here. Of course, for those company-operated stores, you have to specify that. So to begin, this will take effect August 1st. It'll move the hourly wage to $15 per hour. That was announced last October. So now we're just getting that August 1st date for it to be implemented. But on top of that, all partners hired on or before May 2nd will get a 3% raise or that $15 per an hour, whichever is higher. And also here, they're rewarding tenure, rewarding a length of service for baristas, store managers, shift managers, and supervisors. So between 2 to 5 years of service, they'll receive a 5% increase. Partners with 5+ years of service, they'll receive a 7% increase. Now, just to add on that, some things that they heard during these collaborative sessions is that these baristas want more training. And so they're implementing that on June 21st. There'll be additional and more effective training, they're calling it, including doubling the amount of training for baristas. Then in August, they'll double the amount of training times for these shift supervisors. Now, some of those other more larger plans this year is launching an internal communications app. Howard Schultz on the call saying that he hopes that this intends to extend those collaborative sessions that are happening. And then also, as a direct result of that feedback, they plan to provide opportunities to increase sick time, implement a new financial stability toolkit, and introduce new tools to help partners refinance student loans. And some other things that they heard include credit and debit card tipping by the end of this year. They plan to implement that. But of course, Kiko, as you noted, these new benefits will not legally, as Howard Schultz say, be allowed in those unionized stores.
Yeah, I was looking at the wording here. Howard Schultz said federal law prohibits us from promising new wages and benefits at stores involved in union organizing. So what's the reaction from the union side? I mean, I'd imagine they would argue, look, we've been asking for this in negotiations.
Absolutely, Kiko. So I reached out to Starbucks Workers United Organizing Committee. They're, of course, behind this major unionization push that's really quite literally sweeping the nation. According to the organization, more than 250 nationwide stores have filed petitions as of Tuesday, and there are more than 50 unionized Starbucks stores currently across the country. But they said that many of these proposed benefits have actually been proposed at the bargaining table in Buffalo, where it began. They said more specifically, Starbucks Workers United has already filed charges over Starbucks threats to exclude those unionized stores from receiving these new benefits. This isn't how labor law works, and Starbucks knows that. So, of course, lots of back and forth between these unionized stores. And Howard Schultz really saying that these young workers just want more. And he said that this is part of a larger trend, not unique to just Starbucks. But, of course, Starbucks always trying to be at the forefront of conversation here. But compared to a year ago, shares are down nearly 32%. Of course, up today. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for both Main Street and Wall Street.
It's interesting in so many of these earnings calls, you know, you look at a company like Amazon that has gotten pushback on unionization. They've talked about the additional costs they're likely to incur from labor. There's other companies that have addressed this as well. What did we hear specifically from Starbucks on what this means for them from a cost perspective?
Of course, Akiko. Well, you know, with more higher wages and more training, it's certainly going to incur costs. Of course, you know, initially that $200 million investment, that's a roundabout number that they're expecting from all this new opportunities that they're going to provide for those company-operated stores. That $1 billion spending estimate in this fiscal year 2022 alone is certainly just a number that they're putting out there. What it actually is going to cost the company, and as far as, you know, supply and demand goes, they're saying that demand is strong amongst the consumer population, but whether or not they'll be able to keep up with that demand, or whether or not they'll be able to hire to meet that demand, as some people are saying that maybe they wouldn't go to Starbucks if they weren't able to work with those unionized stores. So really, it's a play here, but Starbucks confident, as always, that they're going to make their way through this.
Yeah, it's a conversation that's happening in so many corporations right now, especially with this momentum around unionization. Brooke, thank you so much for that.